Hey, welcome to Alum House Sound. My name is Dave, and today we've got a little bit better lighting, which just identifies how tired I am. But we've got a new console to take a look at. Not new in the sense of freshly manufactured, but this console is new to me. We took a trip recently to Zakopane, Poland, which is many hours away from Richmond, Virginia, and we got to mix sound for a week-long conference. I've got a different video about that. I can post that up here that you can watch. It'll also be in the description if you want to see the vlog that I did about that week out in Poland. But today we're going to dive into the console. Let's run the intro clip and then talk about this console that I got to use, the Soundcraft Impact SI console. All right, so when you fly halfway around the world, you never know what equipment you're going to show up with. The vlog kind of runs through all of the equipment, the PA, the lighting that was set up for me, and this console as well. But we're going to take a deep dive into it in case you come across the Soundcraft SI Impact console to run sound. So hopefully this is going to be beneficial to you. I was trying to kind of one hand record while punching through all of the stuff on the board, but hopefully you can at least figure out a little bit of the functionality with this board. So without further ado, let's jump into last week when I was in Poland, and then we'll catch you at the end. So we're running the SI Impact. This is a Soundcraft board. I've used Soundcraft in the analog days. They sound really good. This one has a digital stage box that we're running for everything to come in. So we're just running a Cat5 cable into the back of this board. I did have the company that this equipment was rented from came in and did an initial setup, and they actually set the board originally over here in that little area over there to make a tech area, because the black table that's over there is where ProPresenter is sitting to plug into the projectors. So the first thing I did was move that out here back to an appropriate spot to be able to mix the room, and rewired things. The PA was set up in a mono configuration. I just went ahead and did it stereo just to be easy and not have to figure out any of the matrices or anything like that. I just want to be able to plug in and play. So I did go ahead and RTA the room, but let's talk about this board. That's what I want to do with this video here. Let's talk about the Soundcraft SI Impact. This board does have some age to it, but it's still a pretty good workhorse. If you come in from, say, the Soundcraft analog consoles, anything in that GL series, if you're running, say, an Allen and Heath, this board is going to be a great kind of entryway into the digital spectrum. Also, if you're on my channel and you used to run, say, the X32, this one, if you run X32 edit software, this one is going to feel very familiar once you figure out where the buttons are. So let's talk about the layout real quick. If we start at the top, we have our typical universal controls here: gain, low pass filter. We've got a gate section with some really nice features there. We've got a DBX compressor. We do have a 4-band parametric EQ, which is really nice. You've got delay, and you've got your panning and your selection of whether your channels are going to left, right, or to mono output. Underneath that, you've got all of your selectors for mix bus. So if I pick this, then our faders will flip into whatever is going to mix bus 2. If I go back to mix bus 1, we've got a slightly different mix, so on and so forth. So you've got 14 mix buses here that you can use. You do have 4 matrices, and then you've got 4 built-in effects. These are send and return effects. You do have tap points right above here, so quick and easy access in case you've got a delay. So I have effects 2 as a tap point, so you see that blinking. That's the layout at the top. We've got a monitor level, and you've got some other meters up here as well. This looks like USB 1 is for lighting, and then USB 2, I'm sure, is maybe for playback, maybe a 2-track recording. I have not ventured into any of that at this point because we're just running front of house here. Looking down at the surface, we do have 24 faders that are movable. We've got a left and right, and then we have a mono or select fader, and this one does become important, but this one here, this is always left and right for your mains. So layer 1 is where I'm at right now. This is channels 1 to 24. Then if I push layer, well, B, I guess they've got A, B, C, and D. So this is going to give us channels 25 to 40. So this is a 40 channel input console. You do have 4 stereo inputs that are on the back of the console, and then you have some stereo returns as well here. These are for your effects. Then if we go to layer C, here we have our mix bus. So these are the mix bus faders, 1 to 10, then you've got 11 to 14. I don't know what the distinction is. I believe that, I don't know. I'm not sure the distinction. I don't want to talk because I didn't read the manual. Then we've got our 4 effects sends. So these are the bus sends with the other layer having returns. We've got some dead channels here, not a big deal. And then layer D gives us the matrix faders as well as some VCAs. VCAs are pretty much the same thing as DCAs, but I'm chosen not to use any VCAs because they're on this layer and I can't move them to the other layer. So regardless, I'm just living with our stuff here on layer 1. I've got whatever that is, I don't know, 16 inputs that we're using and some effects. Let's come in and talk about the controls up here. This screen is a touch screen. I think it's the first of its kind whenever this board came out. And this specific console has been well loved. And so if I push the hey, there we go. Now it flipped. So you do get a visual representation of your EQ. If I go ahead and change things, I don't even know what channel I'm selected on. Let me select a dummy channel that's not being used. But I can move the controls and you can see it moving up and down. This is not a touch screen like, say, the Behringer Wing is. But I can use the EQ controls and I could find a frequency and I can boost that up, and then I could take this one. And you can, one of the things I learned is to flip this from a PEQ to a shelf. You have to turn all the way to the left, and then it clicks into a shelf, and now we have a shelf feature. We've got some menu though here. This is where if I click on inputs, you can come in and you could click in here, change the name of this channel. Again, using this touch screen, which is well loved, was kind of a pain. You have to push not on the button, but down and to the right a little bit, which you might hit the other button. Hopefully for you, it doesn't work like that. We've got in here that we can set, let me move the other hand, filming without a tripod. This is kind of fun. Anyway, we can come in and we can set whether we isolate this. I'm not sure what that means. We can go mono or linked, depending on if we are on a channel or whatever. We can do panning mode for left, center, right, or left, right. And then down here we have some different patching. So we would just come in to patch, and this is where we have on the back of the console here, we've got the mic inputs. So that is whatever this is, 1 to 24 inputs, maybe 1 to 32, I don't know. Then we've got LEX RT, not sure what those are. Then we have our MADI USB card inputs. This is if I was sending things across USB. These would come in on these channels from my laptop. And so we've got a bunch of those. Then we have stage box inputs. This is interesting. Their stage box is a 32 channel stage box, but you can only run 16 channels across one Cat5 cable. So if you notice, this is stage box slot 1. I don't have my stage box on right now, but when it's on, it recognizes a stage box, and it would say slot A, or it should say slot C, depending on the connection that's on that one stage box. So to get 32 channels from the stage box, you do have to run 2 Cat5 cables. Again, I didn't have to do the install. We're only using the one. And you do get outputs, so we do have, it's kind of like an S16. You got 16 in, 8 outs with 1 Cat5 cable. All right, let's talk built-in effects here. I set my Joby pod up, so hopefully this is a little bit more steady. But if I hit effects, we've got some nice Lexicon and DBX kind of affiliations that they've done with their emulations in this board. I'm going to come down here to effects 3 that I'm using very little of. So we've got a small hall, we've got a large hall, a drum hall, a vocal hall, small plate, large plate, drum plate, vocal plate. Then you've got your chamber, your room, ambience, gated, you got reverse, spring. So you got your standard reverbs and delays, stereo delay, mono delay, ping pong, 2-tap, modulated, tape delay. I did not venture into the tape delay because it just doesn't really, I don't think I needed it here, but I would love to hear what that one sounds like. Then you've got a chorus, a flanger, phaser, tremolo, and a rotary, vibrato, pitch shift. So you've got a bunch of standard, I'm going to get out of this so I don't mess anything up with my scene. So you've got a bunch of standard setups here. What I did is I took chamber, and chamber is my reverb for the room. So that's kind of a longer reverb. This room actually has reverb by itself, so I just kept that as a chamber to add on to it. I've got my studio delay that I'm using with a tap delay for vocal delay. Then I have small hall setup. That's actually just for the wireless microphone that's being used for people that are speaking. This room with the people in it, the carpet on the floor, the carpet that's as part of the decoration on the wall. This room is pretty dead with somebody just talking into a microphone. So I'm just adding a little bit of life to their voice with a small hall. And then I've got an ambience effect, which I'm using on some of the vocals as well as the cajon, just to add a little bit of life to that cajon that we've got running as well. Now, I mentioned cajon. A lot of you guys know that I like to do my kind of sub-low trick using an oscillator. They do have an oscillator in here. And when I push the oscillator, I could set this to be on. I could set it to route to a mix or a matrix. There's some other features in here. So the level is going to be your volume control. The frequency we would set, and I would kick this down for my trick to get down here into the 50 hertz range, maybe even 40 hertz. You can set sine wave versus pink noise, and so we would do sine wave, and then I could patch this to an output, and that would be what I would use depending on what I'm trying to do. But with this, again, let me get out of here. There we go. In my normal setup on an X32, I'm running this to a mix bus. There's a way to do it where you send it to mix bus. What I'm not able to do is route the mix bus as a input to a channel so that I can use the gate and sidechain the gate from the actual cajon channel. Way too confusing. I'll post a link in the description about that setup that I do on the X32, but I'm not able to do it here. And therefore, if you look at the EQ that I have on my cajon, it looks like this because I'm trying to get some of the sizzle, none of the emptiness, and more of the low end down there. So overall, this board sounds really good. The preamps that are up in the stage box sound good. The faders do flip pretty quick. So if I go A to B to C to D, it's got pretty good motors in it. Go back to A. If I flip from 1 to 2, I don't have anything there. If I go to effects here, and what you get, similar to X32 Edit, when I click on Effects 1, notice all of the kind of backlit LEDs here change colors. So if I'm on Mix Bus, they're yellow. I'm not sure why this one is red. Not quite sure about that, but it seems consistent on all of the mix buses. So all the mix buses have a yellow color. The matrices, which I'm not on a good layer here. There we go. Matrices have like an orange background color. When I go to the effects are a bluish color. Again, this wireless mic is a different color blue. I'm not sure why, but it is. So you've got all this kind of color changing, which is similar to X32 Edit. When you select on the right-hand side a mix bus, all of your fader outlines change colors. So if I come up here and I click on Effects 1, Effects 1 gives me the mix here that's going into that bus. This fader over here, you see right now I set it down at like -20, just as an example for us to be able to see. And that bus is very similar to the bus that is on layer 2. And so layer 2 has some additional inputs here. stereo inputs, and then we have our effects sends. So this is -20. If I was to change this back up to 0, and then if I click my effects 1, you'll see that this fader now goes back up to 0. So that is a similar fader that's on the send side. And then we have on layer 4, we have the effects, layer 3, we have the effects returns over here. So this is where I'm running my EQ on my effects returns to cut out lows and highs, things like that. But what's important is this. If I go back to my inputs, I select effects 1, I have quick access by using this fader to get to my EQ controls if I needed to for the input bus and overall levels. So instead of having to remember where I am on my layers of 3 or 4, 2 or 3, whatever they are, like I can't remember where they are. So instead, I'm just clicking quickly on my delay, and then I can use this fader to adjust my delay input amount. And that's kind of how I've decided to manage this console for this event. All right, well, that's it. I hope the video was helpful to you. It was a fun trip, and the console actually worked out really well for me. It was a little bit more punching around than really what I wanted to, but I did find out at the end of the week that I could go in and set up custom faders in the layout, so you can kind of take and position which faders you want. So in theory, I could have just had a layer where I had only the faders that I wanted. It would have given me the access to the DCAs that would have been a little nicer for me to mix with, as well as my effects, kind of all on one layer. You've got a lot of faders there that are accessible, but with having to select an effects rack and then go to the far right to mess with the volume or to quickly mute that one channel, that's what I found was easiest. So I just, if you wanted to mute the delay or whatever. Anyway, things like that, I could have spent more time on the console and figured out those details. But in the end, the week was great. The soundboard worked great. And if you run across this console, don't be scared. I think you're gonna be able to build a great mix with it. So that's it. If you like this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We'll catch you guys in future videos. That's it for now. Peace.